my friend.
This meeting is being recorded. That's all I want to say.
Well, that's how we get it on YouTube.
Everything's fine. I wish there had been more football on yesterday, but we had to put up with what we had.
Yes, you had a day of football, I understand. I watched bits and pieces and listened to bits and pieces on the radio. I'm glad the Steelers made it into the playoffs. Give Big Ben one more round for people to criticize him and Mike Tomlin. And
Mike Tomlin was dancing. Did you see that? Did you see the highlight of
yes.
Tomlin? Well, I won't call it dancing. I will say he was moving in time to the music.
I love Mike Tomlin. I know there's a lot of people in Pittsburgh that don't, but I love the guy. If Pete Carroll wants to retire and Mike Tomlin wants to leave the Steelers, I would have him here as the head coach of the Seahawks in a flat out second.
Well, now, speaking of coaches who have jobs and coaches who don't have jobs, it's been quite a morning. The Bears fired Andy Nagy and their general manager, Pace. The Vikings fired their head coach, Mike Zimmer, and their general manager. And the Dolphins fired their head coach after 3 years, but did not fire the general manager. So that was they still had time to make that right. And this is what I say, Vinny, and what I recommended for Washington State University when they hired a coach that wasn't going to work for them.
Yeah.
Decided to work for Donald Trump instead. Is fire the guy now and then remember who hired him and fire him too. And that's what the NFL is doing today. How did we end up with Ron Nagy as the coach of the Bears, the damn general manager that we used to have?
Well, Mikey, I know you're a big advocate of that, and I think in many ways you're right. Is that you should have a unidirectional thing at the front office. You should have the general manager and the coach, and everybody should all be on the same page. And the general manager should hire the coach that he wants,
and they should win. You can have all that.
Well, yeah, you hope that by doing that, they win. You hope that by all of that happening, that they do wind up winning. That's the idea. Although, the problem you have in football, as in all sports, is that you have an owner who has such an ego that he thinks he knows more than the general manager and the coach. Therefore, he can hire a general manager, and the general manager will hire the coach he wants him to hire, i.e. Jerry Jones, and it'll work for them.
So there are other teams right now that are looking at what the Dolphins and the Bears and the Vikings have done and say, if we fire our head coach and general manager, what is the turnaround time? It's not one season. Is it 2 seasons?
Well, everybody wants it to be one season.
Can't be.
Everybody wants it to be one season. Now, I go back always to the model of consistency, which is the Steelers, and I say, listen, these guys keep their people, as long as possible. Now, yesterday, Kevin Colbert, the general manager of the Steelers, announced that he was going to step down after the playoffs, after everything's over. I think he's going to stay until the draft, if I'm not mistaken.
Is he going to Schenectady, do you think?
No, I think he's just going to probably get himself a couple of seats, a box probably somewhere in Heinz Field, and sit and watch the games where he doesn't have to worry about this guy and that guy. This guy maybe he'll take some kind of some kind of job with the organization. I don't think he needs the money. I don't think he needs the aggravation. I don't think he needs any of that. But so sometimes coaches, managers, sports personnel, management personnel leave of their own volition as well. In the case of Kevin Colbert, I think Kevin says, you know what? We made the playoffs, or we're getting to the playoffs. Although I think he announced this before last night. I think it was announced sometime over the weekend. Time for me to go.
And big changes are coming to that team, because even if Big Ben goes on for another year, his time with the team is coming to an end, and they're going to have to make decisions about the new starting quarterback and the offensive scheme that would support his efforts.
Right. And I guess that's all going to really depend on, which quarterback they wind up either getting or drafting Mason Rudolph, who I believe is still their number one backup guy, has never impressed me.
No.
So unimpressive is he that a couple of years ago I wrote a Christmas song about him because he was that bad. Rudolph, the really bad quarterback, I think it was, or something like that. I sent it to Ron Cook, my old partner, but he wouldn't do anything.
Rudolph, our backup quarterback.
Yeah, it was somewhere. I'll have to dig it out. So I actually sat down and recorded it. It was actually, I thought it was pretty funny. A few of my Steeler fans thought it was pretty funny.
Well,
but
you can't send it to Cook and let that be the judgment of the whole worth of the song.
I realized that. No. Ron's not gonna be able to tell you what's funny or not. That's he can tell you a lot about sports, but he can't tell you about
funny. He doesn't know.
Funny. Yeah, I know funny. Funny. Cookie, not so much. Anyway, but wherever Kevin goes, he'll be able to walk away with some titles under his belt and some Super Bowl appearances under his belt, and the fact that he built a team that everybody could expect, save for again. I know I keep drawing parallels to the Seahawks and the Steelers, but really since 2005, their fates have been somewhat intertwined, and that they are two teams that work for a cities that are amazingly similar, even though nobody in those cities will admit it.
Well, they can't see it. They won't admit what they can't see.
Right. They won't admit it, but the two cities, very similar. The makeups of the team are very similar in that they are built around a star quarterback who has spent this entire career with one team and has prospered in that team system under that head coach. Although I think that Ben's ride has been much bumpier than Russell Wilson's.
Yes.
I mean, for a number of reasons, dating back to to the idiocy of his younger career. But the bottom line is for these guys is, luckily they've both had general managers who have kind of toiled under the radar a little bit. But yet made fantastic moves.
That's the way it is in Pittsburgh. These are not headline-making guys. When
it comes to the football team, they are. Listen, the Steelers are undoubtedly, it never used to be like that here. You remember the days when nobody cared about the Seahawks. Well, even if the Steelers are bad, people care about them. Just like the Pirates, people care about the Pirates, even if they're bad. They may complain about them all day, but they care about them. Here, that's where there's a little bit of a difference. The Mariners fell off the charts after 20 losing season, or what I forget what it is now, 10, all the appearances without a playoff appearance, which is, I think, nigh on to since 2001. So, it'll be interesting for the Steelers because it's such a family-run, staid kind of organization that it'll be interesting to see who they will bring in to replace Kevin Colbert.
To see what changes go to the NFL and the college coaching ranks to fill Chicago, Minnesota, and Miami. Now, Miami's got a young quarterback, a small Tua Tagovailoa. The Bears have a new quarterback that they got in the draft last year who has been taking a beating, but he's in place to inherit the reins. The Vikings have gone through a number of different quarterbacks, and that's one of their problems. They don't have a signature quarterback. And frankly, I never liked Mike Zimmer anyway. I didn't know what in the world he was so angry about, but he was never happy on the sideline.
They seem to be upset. Guys with nice jobs like that shouldn't be upset, should they?
They should be happier like Andy Reid. You think Andy Reid gets upset? He's got his thing here. If there's a problem, call another play.
Happiest thing in the world, right? To be a happy coach and to to go out there and say, hey, listen, look at this job I got. Look at these people. Look at the coin I'm making.
Yeah, But look at Pete Carroll, a guy who is mostly has been happier in the past than he was this year. This year brought a lot of furrows to his brow because there were times when, as they say in the business, you can't win for losing.
Well, Mikey, today's landscape is that if you don't lose this year, if you don't win this year, we want to tear it all down. It's ridiculous. There was a guy here in Seattle who wrote a column over the weekend asking, should they fire the coach of the Kraken?
We don't even know who he is yet.
I mean, the team is a first-year expansion team that had to work through, number one, putting whatever its personality is going to be together, and number two, COVID, where they had games canceled. This guy couldn't play. That guy couldn't play. These guys couldn't play. You can't leave the room. You can't go here. And
you can't date Jovic Bulishnikov.
Yeah, you have a sports columnist who decides to stand up and should we, it's the oldest trick in the sports book. Stand up and say, fire the manager.
I think they should get a new home. They need a new place to play.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right, Michael. I think that Climate Pledge Arena has seen its day.
Yep,
it's just a bastion of liberalness.
And here's what I say: you want to leave Seattle? We don't need the Kraken. We don't want a team. Get out of here. There you go.
But please don't leave until we sell all the shirts. You got boxes and boxes of shirts at Costco. Hey, please don't leave. I don't know if a team is, I was going to say, boy, that'd be strange, but it wouldn't, because Seattle is one of the only cities where that exact thing has happened.
To every team.
Well, to the baseball team. I mean, the Pilots were here 1 year, and some, Royal Brome stood up at a meeting somewhere and said, fire the manager.
To hell with the American League. They never did us any favors anyway. They made us build that damn tower for the World's Fair. And now look at the mess we're in.
and old stalwarts like Dewey Soriano stood up and said, well, we're not good. If that's the case, we're not paying any more of our bills.
That's right.
And so Bud Selig saw this and said, gee, I can sneak in there in spring training and buy the team out from under these guys.
Have you boys ever heard of Milwaukee, Wisconsin? It's a town.
No, but you will now.
Yeah, you will.
And as the truck sat in Flagstaff, Arizona, asking with all the equipment in the back, which way are we going, Billy? Or need I ask, do we keep going up towards Seattle? Or do we make a right and head toward Milwaukee?
I can't tell you yet. I have to get one phone call from Guadalajara.
Yes. There's some investors in Colombia that would like to get in on this deal.
Well, how would you like the idea of a Major League Baseball team in Mexico City? That'd be pretty cool.
Okay with me.
Take the Padres down there. San Diego doesn't like sports.
I think that it's only a matter of time until we see more internationalization of the game of baseball. And they play games now in England, so why not? And they've played games before in Mexico City.
And they got a pretty good teams. They have several good teams and a pipeline to more good players in Japan.
Yeah, when I was in Cuba several years ago, and I remember, they have the thing there where you talk to people about baseball, Central Park, and people gather every day. And I remember talking to a bunch of people that are saying, I think within 20 years, Havana will have a major league team. At that time, I thought that, relations were going to normalize between Cuba and the United States. I didn't realize that the whole Trump thing was going to happen and all of the mess that brought. There
might be a slight rivalry between Miami and Havana, don't you think? Wow.
Oh, I think that it would be. Now, again, I don't know what kind of economics would support it, but I am supposing that if Cuba opens up, that, there'll be a rush to buy houses, to, rebuild hotels and, turn it back into what we saw or what was seen there. I didn't see it. I was alive, but in the 50s.
And it would be a good place for Bobby Valentine to get another job.
Somebody has to. Well, didn't he get elected mayor of Stanford?
I couldn't tell you.
I believe I'll have to look at this. I know he was running for mayor of Stanford, Connecticut.
And who's his third base coach at Stanford?
I believe it probably Rudy Giuliani.
Should be Peanuts Lowry.
Which Cookie Lavagetto.
Candy Maldonado.
Sweets McPherson.
Pork Chop McBean.
We can do this all morning,
Haystack Calhoun.
Haystack Calhoun. There's a guy who, and of course, the ever famous Frank Crissetti.
I rest my case.
There you go. I mean, a Bay Area guy, wasn't Crissetti?
Yeah. Played for the Seals.
Yeah. Frank Crissetti, who was the third base coach of the New York Yankees for years and years and years.
He came from the Seals organization, I believe.
Yeah. I don't know if he was there when Casey was there, but certainly was Ralph Houck's after Casey was gone. And
that was before the days when the third base coach would go halfway to home to stop you from rounding third,
or go halfway to home not to stop.
Just go halfway to home and give you
no
signal
and watch you come around there. Gee, this has been, I'm surprised one hasn't pulled out a cell phone and said, this would make a great picture. This guy rounding third.
So the question, and it's a valid one, and it could be a good one for all the teams involved, the Dolphins, the Bears, and the Vikings. You've made the move. You probably have at least penciled in who you want to take their place. Yeah. Are you going to go with a young, look at the playoff games last night, the young coaches for the 49ers, for the Rams, for the Chargers, not so much for the Raiders, all young coaches, first time head coaches with extraordinarily complicated and well thought out offensive plans. Is that the direction you're going to go, or are you going to hire the oldest coach you can find who's still alive?
Well, as we both know, Michael, age doesn't help you in life. It's supposed to, it should say to you, here's experience, here's this, here's that. But I think in today's world,
if you haven't shown us by now,
yeah, many of these owners and general managers want younger coaches who they feel that they can relate to the players.
Indeed.
That there's more of a simpatico.
Might be able to draft a team.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you want an older general manager, but I think as a coach, you need to find somebody who can take your young rookies, your people that you bring in, and mix them up with your free agents and come out with a cohesive purposeness, right? You need in the old days, you went out and got a field general. You got Patton, baby. You wanted Patton. You wanted Marshall. You wanted, the field general, with the jacket and the tie and you wanted all of that. Now you want a psychiatrist.
You better have a psychiatrist that knows an offensive scheme and have a defensive coordinator that can stop the opposition. One thing we saw yesterday is we saw a lot of people that could score touchdowns, but we didn't see many teams that could stop any offensive scheme.
Well, defense is is always in a, listen, defense, if everybody did it, nobody would watch the NFL, right?
Well, right now, the 49ers seem to have the best defense.
Yeah. It's although I'll go with the best defensive player being on the Steelers and Watt.
And he had a great day yesterday.
He's had a great year, Mikey. I mean, he's just, I mean, if I'm a quarterback and I go on that field and I see TJ. I'm looking at the backup and saying,
Could you come in and take a couple snaps? Let me get
yeah,
the hand.
why don't you just
If I could watch a couple, I'd know what to do next. If I could just see you do it.
because TJ Watt's and everybody's grill, man. He has not won the defensive player of the year. And I think that's for a guy who's going to obviously be a Hall of Famer. I think that's ridiculous, but
it's a great time for defensive ends. The Bosa brothers, Watt, Donald for the Rams. It's just been a great year.
Yeah. It's, but yet to have that kind of defense and yet, allow sometimes some of the things that we've seen. I mean, we've seen it with the Seahawks. They have a pretty decent defense. I wouldn't call them great right now.
Well, all you need is one rookie in the defensive backfield, and you got a sustained problem.
Well, that's where the draft really makes its bones, right? I mean, you could draft a lot of different offensive players, but they have to learn a scheme. They have to learn, defensive guys. Yeah, they have to learn a scheme. But it's also pretty much, run toward the guy with the ball. I mean, stop. If you're a cornerback or a safety, you have to have the sense of looking where the ball's going to go and getting that guy. If you're a lineman, it's just run through the other lineman and kill the quarterback. Right? I mean, it's really kind of a lot simpler, I think, with defensive players.
Well, one thing I noted yesterday, Vinny, and it's really a difference, and that is the 49ers, with the best defense in the NFL West, do not rush the quarterback with extra players. They don't bring anybody in the blitz, the red dog, like many teams do.
Yeah.
They send their 4, and that's it. Everything else is in coverage. They don't send the extra linebacker. Very, very rarely do they do that.
Well, Mike, how many times have we seen?
That's a scheme that you don't see the rest of the teams emulating.
Yeah, how many times have we seen teams, use the blitz and get burnt? If you have a little bit of a guy that can do some stepping back there,
like Russell Wilson.
Yeah, all of a sudden, you're running 6 players at the guy, or 8 players at the guy, and you leave, and you're invariably got to leave a lot of holes open.
The tight end and the running back are both open.
Yeah, and a guy like Russell Wilson, we saw it with Steve Young when he was playing with Joe Montana. Bring the blitz, baby, because I'm quick enough that by the time your 6 fat, slow, big guys get here, the ball will be down the field. The ball will be in the running back's hands. The ball will be, I am quick enough from snap to release to outfox your blitz. So bring it. Now, the bad side of that is sometimes you wind up on your ass. But, if I get a roughing the passer penalty, there's nothing wrong with that, right?
That's 15 quick ones.
15 quick, and I'll take that any day of the week.
15 is a big penalty.
It's a large penalty, man, and we've seen teams time and time again get screwed by it.
Well, there's one more game tonight with all this football that's been going on. It's Georgia and Alabama. And I know on Friday you weren't very interested in this game. Have you changed your views?
No, not really. I'll watch it. But the reality is, Mikey, I could give a crap less.
Well, I don't care who wins. I'll put it that way. I have nothing vested in either side, but I want it to be a good game. And I would like to see some talent there make its way to the NFL, which I know it's supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, naturally, every talent scout in the world will be watching that game. Anybody who's anybody will watch that game. And I don't know if anybody else feels like this, Michael, but be careful what you ask for, because you might get it and then you might not like it. For years I advocated that college players should get paid. And so lo and behold now, and that they should be able to move around like a coach moves around.
Well, they're doing that.
Yeah,
that's for sure. And
so now it's here, and I think it's made the game less interesting.
I like the fact that if you commit to a New York Vinnie state and you're playing for New York Vinnie's coach, and he said he was going to do one thing, but now he's going to do something else, you just go to the portal and say, "I'll see you."
Did you see who entered the portal this weekend?
No, tell me.
Well, whilst the state legislature in Hawaii were meeting to decide the fate of one Todd Graham. You know my old buddy Todd Graham. We've talked about him before.
Tell me more.
The former Pitt head coach who now is out in Hawaii because it's the last place you can go.
Oh, that's right.
You know, it's at the end of the football world. There's nowhere else you can go.
There's Midway.
I don't think they have a team.
Good. He'd be the perfect coach.
Yeah, he could do less harm there. But anyway, to make it interesting, several players in Hawaii, University of Hawaii players entered the portal over the last weekend.
They're all going where?
Oh, well, there's yet to be decided. But among the players that entered the portal was Todd Graham's son.
Whoa.
What does that say about you? When your son...
I got to say goodbye. I got to say adios. I got to say farewell and sayonara. I got to say aloha.
What does that say about you when your son enters at the transfer portal? And to be honest with you, to see that happen to that snake, there's a certain satisfaction.
Of course.
In seeing that, because when your son quits on you, when your son wants to get away, that's a big time, like.
Yeah, it's not about football, Dad. It's more about you.
Yeah, exactly. That's got to be a wake-up call to you and anybody that looks like you, that you're wrong, man. You know, you're wrong, and you got to change your ideas.
Is anybody transferring in? Doesn't sound like that would be much of an opportunity.
I don't think I don't think that people are, I don't think it's a destination right now. And let me tell you something. If you can make Hawaii a non-destination, boy, do you stink.
We took the paradise out of Hawaii. No extra charge.
Yeah. I mean, how many kids went to Hawaii that could play football just for the hell of it because they wanted to go to Hawaii and slack off?
Probably a number of them.
I mean, let's face it. You know, what other school would you go to if you said, well, you know, I can get a sky. No, I'm not going to play in the NFL, but I'm good enough to play at college level, and Hawaii needs some people. And, well, the girls are more pretty. You know, the waves are more bigger. And, you know, and there's I don't know if it still is, 18-year-old drinking age.
Well, but you get to stay in the dorm at Fairly Ridiculous if you want to go to play football there. You
can do that, but when you open up the window, what do you see?
It's fairly ridiculous what you see.
It's New Jersey. If you open up the window at the University of Hawaii, what do you see?
You see the Manoa Valley.
I rest my case, sir.
Well, that's an interesting story. In fact, speaking of transfers, Dan Rayleigh's been following the transfer portal for the University of Washington, and
Dan Rayleigh a very busy man these days.
It's very active. There's a lot of guys coming and going, or just going, and we don't even know where they're going, and they're coming, but they're not here yet.
Well, isn't Art Vanderway bringing a bunch of people with him from Fresno State? Isn't that?
It's possible.
Isn't that? I thought that was. I know there's a quarterback that's supposed to be coming, which has old Sam Eward kind of crapping in his drawers a little bit because he was supposed to be the anointed one.
Well, he's anointed, but that doesn't mean you get a promise.
That's it. The new coach, he's not. He's from Fresno. He's coming up from Fresno State, from California. He's not tied into the Eward legacy. He's not.
Also, what does he owe the University of Washington that Fresno State can answer? Does he bring a quality of player with him from Fresno State that's going to answer the problems that the Huskies have? If that's the case, the Huskies have more problems than we know.
Well, it's interesting in that all of a sudden, the Huskies find themselves in a very precarious place. Where the Cougs are nice and settled. They got their coach, and Deloria may be leaving. They don't know yet. I think he's talking about going into the transfer portal. And let's make a note: just because you go in the transfer portal doesn't mean that you're gone. It means that your agent that you're not supposed to have is looking around to see where you can cut the best deal, where you're going to get the most playing time.
You're open for business.
Yeah, you're open for business, which again, listen, the colleges have been making money off of these guys for years. Why shouldn't they be able to make some money for themselves? But it does disrupt the game.
I agree, but there's a lot of upheaval in the Pac-12. Oregon among them, Washington definitely. USC's got a new coach. What's he going to do in his first year? We'll have to see about that. Well, there's much to be revealed. There's a lot of these changes are coming, and a lot of these coaches have inherited, in the case of USC, a couple of quarterbacks that he has to decide whether he's going to use their quarterbacks or bring one of his own.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what the Coach DeBoer does, and how he handles this situation, because I can't believe that he came into this situation not knowing that, Sam Eward, as bad as he looked in the Apple Cup, is, again, the legacy. And if not, I'm sure that many of those gentlemen and ladies over at the University of Washington, who probably have already reminded him that he's not from here, have told him that means that you don't understand the Damon, Brock, Sam connection.
Well, he'll have an opportunity to get familiar with the talents of Mr. Eward, and I wish him luck, because right now the job is open, and he doesn't have a lot of credentials to his credit other than his biological ones. He hasn't had an opportunity to show what he can do, and that's just being fair. But in college football, being fair is really not the point of the game.
No, being fair. As a matter of fact, in most sports at a professional level, and how nice is it to be able to say, at least finally, that, the charade about these are amateur sports is all just a bunch of horse pucky, that it's, that it's a professional sport just like any other professional sport.
And of course, Australia turns out to be a Western country, just like all the other Western countries. You can do anything you want if you're a professional athlete, but for the citizenry, get in line, get your vaccination. You can't work here. You can't come in the restaurant. Oh, your name is Jovic Balishnikov? Well, that's different. Please come in. Can we get a hotel for you? You can buy one of your own, or we'll just put you up here at the Palace of Fine Arts.
Well, Mikey, I grow weary of the athlete or the rock star or the person of some note, personality, influencer, whatever you want to call them, that says, I'm not going to take the vaccine.
Well, Jovic Balishnikov can stay with Aaron Rodgers or Eric Clapton. He's got his choice. Who do you want for a roomie?
You could stay with both. I'm sure Patty Boyd is around somewhere, right? Or is it who was the object of Clapton's? It was Patty Boyd, right? That was the object of it was George Harrison's object de love, and then wound up with Eric Clapton.
And he said, "You can have her."
Yeah, he said,
all things must pass.
Krishna will tell me which way I'm supposed to go.
And I've been that way for a while, so I don't have to go that way anymore. Good luck to you.
Hare Krishna, Eric, you bastard. See you later.
And that's pronounced bastard.
Yes, you bested. You busted you. Oh, man. So who do you, out of the teams that have now made themselves into playoff contenders all of a sudden, is there a team that you like? Is there a team that you're looking at and saying, boy, howdy, nobody's going to beat them?
The 49ers backed into that situation last night. I don't know if you saw the game, but it was a game in which they did not appear in the first half. Now, if that is your scheme on paper to win it all, then I think there's a problem there. And they didn't just look weak in the first half. They looked like they had never met each other before. They weren't actually football players. They were just 11 guys off the street who were dressed as 49ers and trying to put together a backyard game. They had no running game. They had no passing game. They had no protection of the quarterback, and they had no anybody to throw to in the flat to get 5 yards on first down. They had nothing, and I couldn't have been more surprised to see them turn it around and win the game in the second half. But the fact that they look so awful in the first half makes me think that the 49ers, who are my emotional pick, don't have what it takes to beat some of the better teams. And they had their first step now, Vinny, is turning out to be a hard one. Remember the 49ers of John Brody's day and the other quarterbacks that preceded Joe Montana. We had to play the Cowboys in the playoffs every year.
Right. It was Cowboys, 49ers. You talk about a rivalry, boy.
And that was the end of it. Your first playoff team, who we playing? Cowboys. Well, you know how that's going to work.
See you later.
Done and dusted. So it's back to prove it to me by beating the Cowboys. And right now the Cowboys look good. Of course, the Packers have the numbers. I just can't root for the Packers because of Aaron Rodgers. And by the way, didn't Boomer Esiason put his foot into it this weekend?
How did he do that?
On last Friday's show in New York on WFAN or WHDH, whatever the ESPN station is in New York, where he's the morning man. He said that Aaron Rodgers was going to go to the Super Bowl on paper, but then not play the Super Bowl as a complaint and as a protest against the National Football League for making people get vaccinated. And
Aaron Rodgers gets to the Super Bowl, he's going to play in the Super Bowl. I don't.
Of course he is.
Protest the biggest game now.
But Esiason, who did he attribute the story to? He did not. How did he get the story? He didn't say. Where is it today? The story is as dead as it can be. And Boomer Esiason learned a lesson. Don't repeat rumors, or else you'll be taking ivermectin.
Well, it's interesting because I know Boomer, a guy that I worked with as his partner in that show. And, I've talked to Boomer on several occasions, and I don't know that he's a guy that jumps on rumors. I mean, he's been around the block long enough.
He should know better.
So that either tells me he's either made a big mistake, as you say, or he knows something that, is pretty, comes from a good enough source that he said it on, the biggest sports morning show in the country.
It's just pretty hard to rationalize his thinking of, I'm not at the Super Bowl. If we win these playoff games and we go to the Super Bowl, then I won't play as a protest. That doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, what does he be? The white supremacist Colin Kaepernick? Is that where he's going with that? I mean, what's the?
That is his fan base.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, do the Trump people need their own Colin Kaepernick now? And will Trump come out of the woodwork, go to the Super Bowl and defend him? Because the Green Bay Packers will have to use a backup quarterback to start the Super Bowl.
After the game, will they go to Mar-a-Lago to meet Trump?
Or will Trump just show up, in Southern California at SoFi Stadium, which is where the game's being held this year, am I not correct? And, and get into, this, as I've said many times before, Michael, and will continue to say, the physical pandemic continues to ravage this country. The mental illness pandemic touches us all in some place as well.
Yeah.
It's when you get a guy that's that thinks that if I make it to the Super Bowl, I mean, first of all, it makes me so root for him not to make the Super Bowl. It makes me, because he doesn't get what the average person has to go through. It's like the clown out in Pullman. He didn't get that everybody else on that campus had to go get vaccinated if they wanted to keep their jobs.
Even the professors.
The professors, the security guards, the guy who takes the tickets at the stadium, the guy who cleans up the stadium after everybody leaves, the guy who still has that old roast beef tray that you keep your feet warm in, and they all had to be vaccinated.
They should have been, and that's a good rule, and it's a defendable one.
Whether they agreed with it or didn't agree with it, if they wanted to keep their job, if they wanted to feed their family, that's the deal. That's what you have to do if you have this job.
You want to go to medical? You want to go to medical school and come up with another opinion? Then we'll see you in 12 years, and by the time you finish, maybe you'll understand why you take a vaccine.
Right, but he couldn't wrap his head around that. He was the typical guy who was sitting there and preaching to you when he doesn't have to understand or be in the position that you're in. And the same thing with Trump. How long did he preach to people, don't take the vaccine? You can do this, you use the bleach, this, that, when he was getting vaccinated.
And now when he says get the vaccination, they boo him.
Well, because in reality, the people that are crazy enough to vote for Donald Trump don't care about Donald Trump anymore. They're on Ted Cruz.
Not wild enough for him.
Yeah, they're now looking at Ted Cruz and Madison Cawthorn and every other fascist that they can dig up. Young fascist, just like the old coach can't coach anymore. Well, they're looking just like the football teams. They're looking for the young crazies.
Well, American fascists now wear makeup at 8:00 and appear on Fox News in a nice clean shirt that somebody else bought for them. They don't have to worry about the vaccinations, or they don't have to worry about the situation because they've been vaccinated. They're just telling you what to do.
Right, exactly. That's and listen, I would like to say that if you're that stupid to follow them, that you deserve it. But the problem is the way that they do that affects everybody's life. It gets people down to Washington on January 6th to break windows and to threaten the lives of the vice president. Like him, love him or hate him, you still probably don't want to see the guy hanging from the gallows. And we forget that we were this far away from that a year ago.
The interesting part about what we're seeing is a QAnon leader here in California just died of the COVID. Now, that's something that you think would open people's eyes, but it makes no difference to them whatsoever. You got 5 seconds to come up with an excuse why it doesn't matter to them. It didn't really happen. They're not really dead. It wasn't COVID. They were killed by the CIA. I never liked them anyway. They weren't a true leader. They caught it because they didn't believe. QAnon just put them aside. They're really waiting. They're with the JFK Jr. somewhere in Dallas having a plate lunch.
They're in the cafeteria at the book depository.
There you go. Do you want peas or carrots and peas together?
Can we put them in my mashed potatoes?
They're not mashed potatoes as you would know. They're out of a brown unlabeled box from the government. You just add water and hope for the best. What about milk? What about milk? What about butter? What about pepper? Nah, you don't need that.
All I want you to do is I want you to take my peas and carrots, fold them into my mashed potatoes, then take that tuna salad and put it on top of the peas and carrots and the mashed potatoes and slap it down with the spoon. Give me 2 pieces of dark brown bread.
Yeah.
Put it on the side and hand me the plate. I want the tuna salad cold, the mashed potatoes hot. I'll do the rest.
It's not too much to ask. This is America. Why can't we get it that way?
This is America. I mean, I can go to any Luby's cafeteria and get that done. Why not here at the Texas Book Depository?
What was the one in New York? I'm trying to think of the cafeteria.
The Belmont, Belmore.
No, there was a whole
all the cab drivers used to go.
There was a whole series of them, Nadell's or something. I can't think of the name. Damn.
Bickford's.
No. Well, it doesn't matter. Cafeteria.
Yeah,
You get your mashed potatoes and your tuna and a beer that's only this big.
that was the well, yeah, because it was just what was it like 10 cents for the beer or something like that. We give you 10 cents worth of beer. We won't give you a shot glass. That's a nickel's worth of beer.
Yeah.
It's designed to keep the willies at bay. Well, you're not going to get drunk off of this. It's just going to take the shakes out.
You'll be fine. Enjoy your tuna fish.
Enough alcohol. Anyway, so
Needix.
Well, those weren't cafeterias. Those were just stand-up hot dog stands.
Okay.
Yeah, they had hot dogs. You get a hot dog or a grilled cheese. You might have been able to get a tuna salad sandwich, but those weren't, cafeterias, your traditional get the tray, the steel bars, you go down the thing. That was Bickford's. That had the cafeteria set up. And of course the automat, which wasn't a cafeteria, it was you go and put your money in the window and in the slot and take your pie out of the window.
Lemon meringue, please. Oh, look, went by. I have to go back and get it. Could I just go back in line and get that one?
Yeah. No. Well, you had to be quick because they were, and I used to love, oh my God, did I love going to the automat, man. You would just, you'd sit there. I mean, you would just watching them put the, whatever it was.
Ooh, the pie's fresh.
Boom, open it up. And all the coffee you could drink. They had the big urns of coffee that had the spigot that you moved like this. And it was such a cross section of people, man. I mean,
people in tuxedos, people in rags.
Yeah. You'd be sitting at this table, and at lunchtime there was no you have your own table.
No,
you're sitting there, and somebody's going to come over with a tray, put it down, get their coffee, their Coke, whatever, sit next to you. And if they were from Brooklyn, probably talk your ear off for a half hour.
Yeah.
It was,
open up with a question. What do you think of this? What do you think of this idea?
Look at what they served me today here over there.
Here over there. Look what they're serving here over there.
What are they serving here over there? Oh, man. It's,
Oh, I wanted to mention, because we're getting to the end, that Bob Saget died at the age of 65. And I have to tell you, I know a lot of people have, not diminishing his career in any way, but I've never, ever seen a show or an episode of anything that he's ever been in, ever.
The shock to me of Bob Saget was, here he is, this TV guy, and he's working, he's doing America's Funniest Home Videos, and he's on, Full House?
Right.
And he's on all of these different shows, and he's this, beloved comedian, and the guy worked as blue as about anybody you've ever heard. I mean, some of the stuff that you heard come out of his mouth in the live act, he would not be able to function today.
Oh, no.
He would not be on television today. He would have been at the head of the cancel class. With things that he said, but he was not a relic, because he was a funny comedian. I mean, if you heard his stuff, he was very, very funny as stand-up, and very well respected.
Yes.
But he worked both, ends of the spectrum. He worked the clean end, and he knew how to work that. And then he was able to just go all the way over to the, calling people names that you probably would, and I would never call anybody.
Well, anyway, it's funny how well known he is, to the point where even I know him, and yet I can't ever recall having seen him on television in any episode of anything.
Well, Mikey, you should go back and watch those reruns of Full House, man. It's a fine show.
I don't think so.
You sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Wasn't that like the exterior set in San Francisco for that show? I don't think I've ever seen a full episode of it either. I might have seen it. I probably am more familiar with it when they did the reboot of it. And then who was one of the actresses, I think, on it, was part of that college, Get My Kid Into College deal. Wasn't Lori Laughlin part of that?
Yeah, yes, she was. Her
Yeah,
daughter
yeah.
was.
So I mean, I think I know more about it from that, and and seeing the reboot. I don't think I ever watched an episode of it when it was the first run. Full House or
Right.
Fuller House. Um, just it just never. It was past my um, sitcom kind of.
It wasn't. I lost my interest in sitcoms a long time ago. Sorry, Ken Levine. It's nothing personal.
Yeah, every once in a while, there's some that come along that are good. Nobody's come up with another Cheers or another MASH. I don't.
No.
I don't think. Like what was the one that Michael Douglas and Alan Arkin were in? The Kaminsky Method.
Kaminsky Method, yes.
That was a great sitcom, but you got 8 episodes of it over 2 years, or I don't know, 16 episodes over 2 years. Great sitcoms. You had one every week for
72 weeks.
26 weeks.
Yeah.
26 or 30 or or 3/4 of the year. And then you had the summer replacement show, the John Davidson show.
Well, if the whole idea is there's a father, Bob Saget, and 12 cute kids that all say things that are supposed to be funny, but their voices are so imprecise that you never hear the punchline. What do you say? And then laugh, track. Well, what was that? I didn't hear that. It's just a concept that I find so unfunny at the beginning. Wait till the cute kid says something. No.
Yeah. Well, it was the Urkel, right? What was the show with Urkel? The black geeky kid with the glasses.
Yeah, the Bip Jiggerman show.
Yeah, yes. It was. I mean, it was a great. Everybody talks about it, and so on and so forth. I never heard the kid utter a funny line because he had that voice. You couldn't track. It was tough for me to track by the time it came along. So
what did he say? He said the punchline. Well, what did he say? It's not important.
At least when Jimmy Walker was doing Good Times, he had Dynamite.
And that was the punchline to everything.
Right. And announced in clear, concise terms. There was no, you could be across the room, and if you heard Jimmy saying Dynamite, you turned and looked to see what was going on the TV.
It was time for a commercial break.
Right. If Urkel's mumbling, so what? I don't know. It's just, but again, times change. There's I guess there's some. I mean, the Goldbergs is pretty funny. Curb Your Enthusiasm. Although I don't know if Curb Your Enthusiasm is. I guess it's a sitcom, right?
It's a comedy.
Yeah. Seinfeld was a sitcom, right? I guess.
Again, breaking the mold, but yes.
Yeah. So I guess really the whole sitcom thing has changed to it's no longer. Although I do see in a lot of these sitcoms, like what's the one I checked out? I was checking out for a while. The Neighborhood. Cedric the Entertainer, and our sitcoms always had the dad is the smart one. Father knows best. Yada yada. Now it's completely. Mom is the smartest one in the family,
and dad's the dummy,
and dad's the dumb one, or the feminine one of the gay couple is the smart one, and right. It's so very much female oriented now, feminine oriented in a lot of these sitcoms. Yes. That if you're a guy, if you're just a regular old white guy watching it, you feel kind of. Like they're making fun of you.
Where's my demo?
They are.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, which they are. I mean, listen, we lived in a white male dominated society for so long. Now we
know what the real problem was: the dumb white guys all along.
Was it? I guess, yeah. I mean, if you believe the premise of sitcoms.
Well, even in police procedurals, the officer, head of detectives, is going to be the idiot. You're going to do it my way. We're doing it downtown today. You're going to. I'm telling you, Captain, don't do it. Don't do it that way. You don't know this gang. You're doing it my way. We'll be there at 3:00.
Yeah, but then they changed too. I mean, Law and Order introduced the first female African American figure of authority
Lieutenant.
in a police show, Esapata Murkison, and even the dumb white guys were actually pretty intelligent. With Lenny Briscoe,
like Ricky Schroeder.
yeah, and Ricky Schroeder, and even even in the police procedural, you had you broke the mold again with Sipowicz. You took a guy that was probably the most despicable kind of cop that you could find, a drunk guy that made his share of mistakes in life, and in the last show, he becomes the captain.
Well, he was an anti-hero for so long.
Yeah, I mean, he was such a good. I mean, he would really. I mean, I remember I did a piece about that show when they had the last show, and I just remember the redemption that people felt around that character. I mean, when you talk about all-time characters that people identified with, and all of the things that he went through to get him to where, he walked down that. I mean, you had a case where at the end of that show, he walked down those stairs and everybody's applauding him because he's finally getting to be a sergeant, detective sergeant. And, in that line of people is most of the people he done wrong on that show. I mean, it's really such a poignant moment when you're looking at, this is the ultimate redemption where everybody he called the N-word or anybody that he beat up, or people that he gotten scrapes with. I mean, they even brought back, I don't know if it was for the last show or maybe the show before the last show, they even brought back Bobby Simone from the dead. Jimmy Smits, who had left the series, years before, was his second partner. They even brought him back and did a scene, kind of a fantasy scene where, he met him in the locker room and he was talking to him.
Of course.
And it was one of the best scenes, in television history for my money. I mean, it was just this great, your friend comes back to congratulate you on and guide you. The angel is Bobby Simone. It was great. I mean, I still tear up every once in a while when I go to YouTube and I watch it just for some kind of inspiration. It's one of those scenes. The writing was so good. Just the actors was so good. It's just, classic. I love this.
And they didn't waste any scenes with stupid stuff about your boyfriend and your girlfriend and all that stuff.
No, that show and several like it, but that show was really, it just broke ground in so many places because they didn't waste scenes. The actors were there to do business. The writers were there to do business. I got to give the actors a lot of credit in that show because David Milch, who wrote many of those, really didn't write them. They were handed like a piece of paper with, this is what we really want to do, and no lines on it.
And think of the situation. Always Sipowicz at his desk, always in the dressing room, always in the captain's room, always at Donna's front desk, always on the stairway.
Yeah.
Every day in the same thing, doing something different, but in the same familiar place.
Well, and that was part of the beauty of the show is it showed the drudgery that in a very real sense of what, cops, I mean, let's face it, most detectives and cops don't go riding around the street at 80 miles an hour chasing people. They cruise along, at 30 miles an hour to get to places slower than everybody else because they don't have to be there on time, and they stop for coffee on the way, and they go up and down the same stairs into the squad room 100 times a day. It's not like you see like on CSI where they go and they solve every crime in 30 minutes or 60 minutes.
And they don't need the cops, just the CSI people. They
Yeah, all
solve
it needs the scientists. We really don't. We don't need the cops.
You don't
We
need the
got
cops.
this figured out. NYPD Blue gave you and similar shows like it afterwards, Law and Order, but more NYPD Blue gave you the relationship between the uniformed cops and the detectives, which was at best usually pretty rocky.
Canvas the neighborhood, go
right.
door to door.
Right. It gave you the neighborhood in a very real sense. It gave you the characters of New York in a very real sense. And it put those all together, as an ex-New Yorker. I could tell you that there were, when you saw a character on NYPD Blue, I could point to say, oh, yeah, I remember that guy from the neighborhood.
Yep. He used to be the da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah. This guy, that guy, politicians, whatever, whatever they were, whoever they were bringing in they did a great job. It was well cast. I'd like to say it was well written, but again, with the David Milch situation, I don't know how well written it was, but the actors and the company and everybody pulled it off. They knew what they were doing.
They made it work.
They made it work. As part of the reason that Jimmy Smits left the show, he said he couldn't do that anymore. He was used to like somebody handing him a script and saying, here's your lines, make of them what you will. And, all of a sudden, I remember reading a book about the show, and they said we'd come in on Wednesday to shoot the show, and there was, we just handed us a piece of paper saying this is the situation.
What are you going to say?
So luckily these guys had enough experience at what they were doing and had, they were filming in New York and did enough ride-arounds with cops and all of this kind of stuff to know. But I would imagine after 4 or 5 years of doing that,
either you get very good at it or you get tired of it.
Yeah. Yeah. You get really, I could imagine, even if you're good at it, you get really kind of, oh man, am I making a mistake here? Am I looking credible? Am I this? And must be very stressful.
And you also have to worry about wardrobe because Sipowicz could run out of short sleeve drip dry shirts.
Nope. I disagree with you, Michael. There was a Robin.
Can you always get more on Canal Street?
You just go to, there used to be these stores called Robins, and there were these, you've seen them on TV a million times. They're the stores that have all of the clothes outside of the front of the store, hanging on racks or in boxes. And then there's a huge, it looks like an airport hangar inside with more clothes in boxes. And I think the most expensive thing you can buy in the store is a pair of Lee jeans for like, $9.99. And if you light a match in the store, the polyester will explode. It goes poof.
There's polyester fragments in the air everywhere from centuries.
Yeah. You're driving down 125th Street and you're seeing these little thin filaments of what used to be Robins.
I told you not to light that cigarette.
Right. You don't see those stores outside of New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, places like that. There used to be John's bargain stores.
And can I get a short sleeve men's dress shirt with the drip dry?
In the middle of winter, they got them sitting out there. You can go in there, December 24th and get yourself either a button down collar or a loose collar.
Could I get it in Sipowicz tan? A tan Sipowicz?
You can get it. They come in one color.
Sort of off yellow?
Off blue, off yellow, off. It's all the same color. It's just varying degrees of dye. But usually they're like an off-white. Yeah, but you can get it in blue. You can get it.
We'll do that next time we go to New York. We'll do our show dressed as Sipowicz with Robin's wear.
Yeah, exactly. Now, or when Andy wanted to get fancy, he would get the shirts with the pattern on it. With the cross
checks, stripes, and checks again.
I wonder if they have his shirt in like the television museum, the Museum of Broadcasting, the Smithsonian.
They gotta.
You got to think that one of Andy Sipowicz's shirts are somewhere.
We can only hope.
Yeah. I mean, you really can only hope that one of his shirts has survived. The collectors and
We need one of little Steven suits and shirts too from the Sopranos. God, he wore some awful things.
He really his ward. I think I was reading somewhere where he actually got to keep a lot of those clothes.
Who wants them?
He did. He just turned them around and used them in Lilyhammer.
He also, if you wear them in the right combination, you can wear them on stage with Bruce.
Somebody just sent me a clip of Little Steven singing "My Kind of Town."
My kind of town, Chicago
from Lilyhammer. Yeah, from I guess he's in the club he owns there, and decided to the people requested him to sing some American song, and he got up and he did "My Kind of Town." And I didn't know this, but they had done it at a Bruce concert at one point. He had come out on the last tour and done a solo of "My Kind of Town"
in Chicago, I hope.
No, I don't think it was in Chicago. I think it was somewhere else. But I would love to see that. I mean, he didn't do that with the Disciples of Soul when I saw him.
No.
I saw them 3 or 4 times when they were on tour. And
I saw them at the Waldorf in San Francisco when Little Steven had the black bass player with blonde hair.
Jean Bevois.
Jean Bevois, thank you very much.
Yes, Jean Bevois. Well, there's been, of course, a big change in the Disciples of Soul since then. That was the first edition. Now, the last time they went out on the road, which was 2-3 years ago now, they had a rocking soul review that was excellent. I mean, they had Eddie Mannion on horns, and they had a full horn section and a full. I mean, it was. I think it was like a 12 or 14 piece band.
I don't doubt it.
Plus, a bunch of backup singers and go-go dancers, and the whole bit. It was a regular kind of soul review.
Plenty of people to do the opening act, and now our main performer this evening. Give me.
It's interesting they didn't do that, and I always wondered about that because. You've seen enough soul reviews to know how it works. The band comes out, they take their instruments and they do a number, maybe 2. And then, somebody stands up and says, "Now, ladies and gentlemen," with the boom, 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 ba, 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 ba. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to our stage at Slim's, ba, 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 the one, the only queen of soul, Etta James," she comes straddling out onto stage, or Coco Taylor, or
right. Sure,
and come out and just rip into the opening number.
That's how you do it.
That's how the Chicago and the Memphis and Nashville. That's how that whole blues review. That's a review. It's not just the act; it's the review.
I saw Albert King with a great review. Everybody was on the bus, and they come out one at a time, and then that forms the band and the background singers, and then they hit you with the star.
Right. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome America's #1 blues king,
Right.
Albert King.
His guitar is upside down and backwards. Albert King.
Albert King, the man who has more women than women have men. Albert King. Yeah, you don't get that much anymore, do you?
No, you don't.
The great days of rock and roll and blues and so on. All right, one more before we go. I know we're right up against it. I put something on Facebook this weekend, and I thought it was very interesting. I got a lot of responses to it. Is there one place, Michael, that is a part of rock and roll that you haven't been to, that's on your bucket list, that you must absolutely be must go to, must see before you die?
No, but no, I don't think so.
Okay, we got a lot of interesting answers.
I walked by the Brill building many times when I lived in New York, so I got a good look at it.
Yeah, get the Brill. Most people said Abbey Road. A few people said Budokan. There was a bunch. The one that I didn't see that I have not gone to yet, and am going to go to at some point here pretty soon, is the Buddy Holly plane crash site
Ooh.
outside of Fargo, North Dakota. That's a fairly popular. I mean, I've even passed. It's about, I think, 25 miles from the interstate or something like that. I have to get off, and you have to go outside. I think it's clear. I think actually it's Clear Lake is where
Iowa. Clear Lake, Iowa is where.
Yeah, Clear Lake, Iowa is where the plane, I think. I have to look again, but it's
they played the Winter Jamboree at the surf club or whatever it was.
right,
called.
right, and then the plane took off and crashed not long after taking off. But again, that's a place that I've always, I've been to Eddie Cochran's. Eddie Cochran has a statue. I've been to Gene Vincent's statue. I've been to a lot of these kind of interesting places, but there were a lot of good answers, a lot of interesting, like I said, Abbey Road probably came out.
Number one.
I
think you can take the tour of the studio where the Beatles recorded. I think
yeah, which I would love to do. I mean, you talk about being in a room. I have done the Sun Studios tour.
I'd like to see that.
Where you can actually, they have the microphone that Elvis Presley recorded into.
That's all right, Mama.
Yeah, sitting there, and you can actually speak into it. It still works. I mean, you can talk into it. I don't know if somebody was telling me that they used to be that you could actually make a recording into it.
Oh.
And you would have a recording of you singing an Elvis song into the microphone that Elvis originally used to record That's All Right, Mama.
Remember Neil Young made an album at one of those recording booths where you make a 45?
Yeah.
He made an entire album in there.
Yeah. My daughter and I did what did we do? We did a Leslie Gore. We did Maybe I Know in, Third Eye Records. Has two record stores, one in Memphis and one in Detroit. And they have recording booths in both. And I think it was, I don't know, I must have made 100 records in those in Times Square when I was a kid.
Oh, God, yeah.
We go in there, we'd stuff five guys into the booth and do some doo-wop song, with the door open and, there's three guys off back here, doing the doo-wops. And we did, I think we did Maybe I Know. Somewhere I still have the little record that you get. That
used to be one of those on the observation deck of the Chrysler building. No, not the Chrysler building.
Empire State.
Empire State Building. The observation deck. They had a recording booth.
Yeah, they were when I was growing up. They were in a lot of places. I mean, we used to go to the one. There was an arcade on 42nd Street.
Of course. In
the 200 block of 42nd Street called Fascination. A big light bulb sign outside that said Fascination. And right inside had two garage doors there, and they would open them up, and you could play skee ball,
pinball.
Or you could play pinball. No, you could play pinball, I don't think. Or maybe they eventually legalized, because pinball was illegal in New York City.
Why?
For many years. But you had the skee ball, and you had the other game, I forget what it was, where you would roll a ball, and it would be like 10 holes. It was almost kind of like a cornhole, except that you roll a ball and you would drop it, and you had to get over a number of points. And you got tickets, little tickets, points would come out of the machine, and then you trade the points in for prizes.
Stuff bear.
They had a couple of recording booths in those places. And I think if I remember, a couple of Five and Dimes had them as well. I mean, they were very popular in the 50s and the 60s. There were more than one group that got their start by going to one of those machines.
Making a demo.
That's how you make, if you were a street doo-wop group in the 50s in New York, that's pretty much how you made a demo.
Yeah.
You couldn't get recording studio. Nobody would give you, you didn't go to a recording studio. You went to the booth and you sat there with three of your friends. And you did bop, bop, boom, boom, bada, bada, bop, bop, shoo, bop, 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 while you Earl Lewis is singing lead, and then for
Mikey,
25 cents, you got a demo.
Can you get me Clyde McFadder? I'm over here at 42nd Street.
He'll be right up. He's on the one train now.
Before we go, I wanted to say hello to Klay Thompson of the Golden State Warriors, who 31 months ago blew out his ACL, came back, blew out his Achilles, was out of basketball for 31 months, and now back playing. He scored 17 points last night and dunked on the opposition. The Warriors won.
I saw the dunk, and boy, oh boy. I mean, you talk about making a statement that you have come back and that you are back, and that you're, that everything you've worked for the past,
31
I don't know how
months.
long, what was it, 40 months, right? 30, whatever it was, months, is
31.
back.
Yeah.
And of course, a Cougar.
Of course, he's a Coug.
And you know who his dad is.
He's a famous broadcaster.
Who was a famous basketball player, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So it runs in the family. I thought it was his
Yes.
brother who had all the talent.
Yes. It's.
I'm sure it was his mother who had all the talent when you think of it.
Yeah. Well, but Michael was a pretty talented guy. We used to have him on the show fairly often.
I miss him very much.
Yeah. He was. We were gifted when we were on KJR, Michael. We had these wonderful guests that used to come out. We had Calabro, and we had Michael Thompson and Marcus Johnson. I mean, we had just an assortment of Gary Payton from his bedroom every couple of days.
Wherever he was, he didn't need a phone to get on the air.
He just had his thing that he plugged in, and we were very lucky back then. I mean, we really got to talk to and spend time with some incredible talent.
Oh yes.
Much. George Carl would always be on the show. I mean, we really did. We really had a fool's buffet of of people that would come on the show and educate us.
We were the automat of morning radio.
Well, yeah, because we admitted that we didn't know everything. So we let these people come on and say, this guy knows basketball because he's a former basketball player.
I always thought a good guest is better than a good phone call. That was something that my program directors didn't always agree with.
No, because we were told that phone calls were like our records.
But they ain't.
We were told that, a good phone call is like a hit record. And that was good. That was true if you had a good phone call. Problem was, great phone calls were rare unless you were in New York or Los Angeles.
A phone call is not the same as a good call.
Right. A phone call, there are, and I'll, let me put Pittsburgh into that mix too, because there were some great phone callers, sports talk callers in Pittsburgh. I mean, just absolutely. I mean, you talk about,
you could count on them.
Yeah. And the great thing about Pittsburgh was that the women were not bashful in picking up the phone and calling either. Here it was tough. Every time you got a woman that would call, sometimes they just had a fear of calling. I think they thought it was like a boys club and you couldn't call.
I don't blame them.
Yeah, it was. There was not that fear in Pittsburgh. I know just as much as my idiot husband.
And I've been watching the games longer than my idiot husband.
Yeah, I watched these games with my father when I was, I know more about football than Coach Tomlin does. And many times they were pretty close to being right. I said, wow.
Steelers are my team too.
Exactly, man. I mean, I got into some incredible. I went out, after I got divorced in Pittsburgh, I went on a few dates with some women who were absolutely knew much more about sports than probably any guy that I knew. They just had, they knew it, man. They followed it. It was in the blood, man. It was in the blood.
You're on the air. Good morning.
You're right on here. You could host the show. You know more than half the people working at this radio station. All right. I guess it's time to, we could probably go, Mondays we usually can go for 2 or 3 hours. I mean, we actually have a show on us on Monday.
We'll just do the pregame to Georgia, Alabama. By the way, you have to pick a team.
Do I? Wow. The problem with picking between Georgia and Alabama is that politics always comes into play, right?
So you're picking Georgia.
Well, it's hard to pick Georgia too. I mean, it's Lester Maddox versus George Wallace. I mean,
and it always shall be thus.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do? Can I root for a tie?
Yes.
I root for a tie. I root for I don't like either of those states, and I could care less. Give me a Minnesota. Give me a Rutgers. Give me somebody I can root for. I want Michigan State. I would have loved Michigan, even though it's a Harbaugh. I still would have rooted for them.
You can have your Rutgers, and I'll raise you a Fairly Ridiculous.
I'm a big fan of Fairly Ridiculous. I remember their commercials in the 60s, financed by Jim DiCarlo. Come to Rutgers, come to Fairleigh Dickinson, where the girls are skinny and from New Jersey. What do you want out of life? Get over here. The only other thing I could do is think of going to Brown and finding it, Have yourself a good day, Vinny. I'll see you Wednesday. Michael, we'll see you Wednesday, and everybody else, if the Lord's will and the creek don't rise. Till then, please keep in mind, peace, love, Manischewitz, baby. That's a wine, by the way. Wow.